Welcome to the Innovator Cafe, a podcast that bridges the gap between people and the world of AI and innovation. Follow us to explore the top AI applications, eco-insights, and the emerging trends. Today, we're honored to have Ray Wu, Managing Partner of Alumni Ventures with over 20 years of investing experience, focusing on AI, Web3, FinTech and SaaS investment. Welcome, Ray. Now we move to some quick Q&A session, so you can give us some quick insights, right? If you try to reduce three things in your investing journey, what are they?
Take more risk, start early. Investing is never actually learning from, I think it just always thinks from a first principle why some things don't follow others. I think you should take other opinions into consideration, but you should have your own framework. I think it's very important to have that. When I was young, obviously a lot is about learning from the right person. So I make sure I get to the right person. So a lot of these, I don't think I will redo a lot of things, but I do think there's certain framework I probably will apply more to emphasize the learning process.
Well, if we try to see what are the three things, lesson learned you have, what are they?
Lesson learned, trust and verify. So you trust the founder tell you the truth, but verify the truth behind it. So I think that's important. I think from the first principle. So just like I mentioned, have your own type of models in your mind, what actually could work and validate it. Always learn from that. And every investment is a great investment, it's a journey. And we do, after we invest, good or bad, we come back and figure out our original hypothesis, does that work? So that's interesting. And then essentially work with the great people. I do think everything is about empowering. We want to be helping inspired people to be successful. So working with the great people, regardless from investment perspective, from founder perspective, surrounded with people you like.
I'm just curious, what kind of framework do you have in your mind?
Try to think about it. I do think life and investment are somewhat co-related to a certain degree, because everything is, I do think life is continuous journey, so is investment. You learn from the whole process. I don't think there's, a lot of times it become a pattern recognition. I don't think it's a framework, it's just there's a set of check mark we do almost subconsciously. We go through that very quickly, go through it, and when we talk to the founder, there's always the visible signal. We always ask a certain set of questions, like I mentioned to you before, right? There's certain dimension we look for, but then depends on the answer or depends on the sub-signal, we try to figure out, does that even make sense, right? So a lot of these, I do think that the framework, it's easy. Everybody, you can actually look it up online. There's a lot of these, everybody's talking about it, but investing, hard thing about investing is not the framework, it's about how you actually use the framework to find the truth behind it. So that actually takes quite a few of the training, but also I guess it's also failures or iterations to actually learn from it. It's just no shortcut.
I just feel like sometimes, even though you know the truth, right, but you try to persuade yourself.
So that's why I say truth shall set you free, right? So what is the truth behind it is really true. So that's why it's so hard. A lot of times as human, we put on color glasses and we look at things the way we want it to be. The question is what is truly is, right? So I think the only thing about framework, a lot of times I keep on asking myself, what's the blind spot I'm missing? So what if there's something happen? What can happen to make this thing suddenly does not work, right? If you can manage through the risk and you figure out what the downside is going to be, or what can be at least, then if some signal happens, what is good or bad, how do you manage through it? So a lot of these is just reverse yourself to the other dimension, to take a look at the hypothesis you build and try to figure out if that even makes sense.
So second one, what are the most interesting, innovative, or your favorite AI products you see most recently?
Yeah, we use a lot. I think we use all kinds of tools, right? Even Google Notebook LLM, it's great. I use a lot. I use Gemini quite a bit. I use all the search. Let's say search, we use all the searches. So I think AI search, everything is a little bit different, and they give me different things. And I try to use AI with AI and give me some new dimension that I'm not thinking about. So it's more about reducing my time across the board.
Do you have any books or suggestions or want to share something that inspire you?
I think AI by itself is, I think whatever already written is already, once it's published, already too late because AI is moving too fast. So I don't even think, I think the best, most important thing is stay in the industries, talk to people, and because it's just moving so fast. I think no longer the book is the right way to learn because you can even talk to ChatGPT, learn much faster on the type of question you want to ask, right? And help you structure your, so I think book is very the traditional ways, but if you think about the more of the framework structures, then that makes sense to think about because that doesn't change that fast. Then it's more about how you build out. For example, I like Ray Dalio across the board. All his books, like The Principle, that's essentially is a good book. The World Order is a good book in terms of thinking about from unipolar world to a multipolar world, essentially how the global world was structured, potentially what could be, right? So that's a framework, essentially. To me, that's interesting. And then if you think about the philosophical type of things, there's always like this book like Finite and Infinite Games, how you think about the life itself, right? There's many interesting books. They're just, I read a lot and you just have to, and then sometimes it's actually great to think about GPT, combine these books as, are they all talking about the same thing? How do they relate to each other in different concepts? So it's actually fascinating to use AI for that as well.
What specific areas of AI do you see to having most potential for growth in the next 3 to 5 years and 10 years?
Oh, 10 years, way too long. 3 to 5, even too long. I do think that's, I think adoption of AI usage models, no longer we just talk about language. I think that's one dimension. We see AI into a 3-dimensional world, so that into smart machine, that in terms of autonomous driving, that into robotics. So that's one dimension, right? So that's for sure, I think, by just like robots learning from movement, human videos, similar to a large language model from a language perspective. So that whole concept, I think, makes sense. And that probably will become a trend over time. So that's probably is coming up, especially if you think about manufacturing onshore into the US, you really need robotics, you need manufacturing. So that drives a lot. I do think that could be a theme. Then I think a lot of these kind of enterprise usage models, I don't think it's a large language model. It's going to be smaller language models, could be shrink down, pattern up, secure, compliant, managed, all the abilities we talk about, scalability, manageability, security, all these other things need to be applied to that whole application. So I think that will probably be applied into the vertical industries quite a bit. We're moving from experimental phase where everything is experiment to a more of the application phase where it actually becomes something being used by enterprise. So I think that will happen and that will increase productivities and beyond just the first productivity increase on the baseline. And then, so a lot of these, I think you always watch the autonomous driving coming in. So there's a lot of new things. I think this is actually a lot of these multiple waves biotech. It become very interesting in my mind, where the human is an analog device and that become digitized. And what would happen to that, right? So as I talk about computer-human interface, if that happened, then metaverse may happen. So human actually is through that could be in this kind of digital twin. And a lot of things could drive it behind us. So there's all related.
So do you have any suggestions or tips to other professionals or founders at this moment?
Great time to be alive. Take risk, do more. Figure out what you want to do, why you do it. I think startup, if you talk about founders, it's a very tough journey. Everybody think it's so glamorous. It's actually a very tough journey. Be mentally prepared, make a decision if that happens, and to be able to sustain it, because not every try will win. And I think it's a mechanism to change the world. It may not be the mechanism. I just think carefully. I think heroes, just like heroes, not somebody who's reckless, but they think about it. They know why it's hard, yet they still do it. I think founders the same way. I do think we make sure that understand the journey itself and then see why you even want to take on this journey, because it's a very tough journey. I don't know if it's interesting, but to many ways, the founders tend to be, I think for us, because we do so many deals, we look at a lot of founders. I don't know if it's To many degrees, I think good founders are really hard to find. Just don't know. A lot of times I find it's more about how to figure out the uniqueness of this founder so that it actually can make something works the best. We actually have very good profiles of a lot of founders because we do work with them very closely, and they actually really like us. Sometimes a lot of them write testimonials in terms of how much we help them, but a lot of times each one is different and each one brings some superhuman capabilities, feels like different dimensions. So there's people who's very good at marketing, which is just great in terms of community buildings and go out and big. And there's people who's actually great at just building things, and both could work if it just happened to be the right fit in the work. So there's no cookie cutter to a founder model. And so I don't think there's anything that I would share that's make it become very personal to that founder's journey. So probably would not answer in particular ways, but in a high level, I just find it's for me, it's very fulfilling to watch. It's good founders always, I think they're super capable to be able to survive through it and to be able to build something and to sustain it at that level, have that passion. It's truly hard to do. Because that's, again, coming back to my last statement, think about whether you want to be a founder, because there's no one there. You have to take responsibility, you have to do a lot of hard work.
I just feel like sometimes it's like magic, right? You just feel like, oh, things will not work at that moment, but somehow they find a way to work it out on time, which is amazing.
That's why persistence matters, right? That's, again, coming down to a lot of these as a timing issue. When we just talk about the iPhone, for example, right? I don't know if you ever remember, there used to be some of the small PDAs a long time ago. It's right before iPhone happens. So a lot of these are great designs. They just happen to be the wrong time. So if the founder just stay a little bit longer or use a little bit right technology, they actually could make it really work. It just happened to be at the right time, at the right moment, right? With the right technology, something works. But then the most times when the founder has that vision, a lot of times it's too early. But that doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just early. Then the question is, can they stay on this journey for a long period of time to just slide through it? And that's very hard. And then once whatever they develop, does it even fits, right? Even you look at, sometimes you completely have to change to be something different, right? You look at Slack, right? Slack founder built something completely different initially. Then they build something too, and Slack something take off, then complete change to that model. So be flexible and keep on. That's why I say it's interesting to see a founder has to be very flexible in a way that how they apply and take the product to the market.
It's kind of interesting when you think about those two characters, right? One is persistent, the other is flexible. How that work together to solve the problems?
I think is persistent on your end goal, but not persistent on a path you take, right? So the end goal is always there. That's you want to see, well, what do I want to do? That's kind of the reason I say, what's the why behind it? Why do you want to do this? If you say, hey, I just wanted to make the world, make somebody publishing easier, I don't know, WordPress. When they first do it, I just think that it may not be the first iteration, so everybody would be a little bit different. But then over time, you basically say, well, this model doesn't work, then I need to change to something different. I listen to some customer, they tell me my idea sucks, I need to change it, then I just change it, right? But end goal is not changing because you know what you want to accomplish. But then all what we're doing is different paths forward. So the question is, what is that path forward that make it work, make it really useful? So I think it's destination matters. So I do think we need to know where we're going. But then the path we take really depends on the obstacle in front of you, right? You can't say, hey, this road is blocked and I keep on trying. It doesn't make sense because that is blocked, right? So you have to find a way to go around it. The question is, what is around it? Do you have enough ammo to go around it to reach to your destination? So again, the persistence, what I'm talking about is persistent toward that goal, but not persistent towards in that path that you are.
Yeah. And also when you use AI, right? Do you have like some funny story about how you use AI? Or something like you use AI in a unique way?
I use AI to validate. Like I said, for example, I use AI to think about my blind spot. I use AI to connect books I read and talk about why certain books and talk about this point and the other guys talk about that point. Are they even talk about the same thing? AI is super smart. I do think more and more I enjoy to have a conversation with AI. It brings a total different dimension to the way, much more efficient. It may not be correct. One thing is that almost you have to validate whether it's correct or not, but it does bring a lot of creativities, different dimensions, simplicity to a lot of answers that I'm just thinking about. And sometimes I don't even, when I write things, and these days I don't need to really structure my thought. I put a lot of thought into it. I just ask AI to organize it for me. And it does a great job in terms of organizing into it. Then I look at it and say, it doesn't make sense. Then that's why I say it's a co-pilot to me. It's almost like I have several AI windows sitting on the side and basically testing different things, and I use them to help me to think through it. So maybe over time, my AI, the way I talk to you, maybe not me anymore. It's like, yeah, my AI avatars have all my knowledge and be able to speak well on my behalf. Then that'd be super cool. And I'm jumping to thousands of meetings in parallel. And present all the story, listen to everybody else, and synthesize it, create a summary, I read it, and figure out who I want to talk to next, right? It's a great journey. That'd be when that happens.
What is a question you think we should ask but we haven't been?
I think you asked a lot of good questions. I don't have fixed question because fundamentally it's just to be here with your audience. So hopefully it helps your audience, and if they're looking for fundings, look us up. So that's we're here to help.
Cool. So I think we're towards to the end of the session, right? Do you want to give us one or two sentences to our audience as your last comment?
It's great to be here. So I think it's AI's transformation is something that truly disruptive. I do think it's very different from every technology I've seen in the last 30 years. This is the first time intelligence almost, it may not be intelligence, even from a probability perspective, it's just similar to how human copy other humans. This machine or this whatever we create can copy a lot of things and become almost learning very fast, 24/7. So I think if your audience doesn't know it enough, try to learn it as fast as they can, because this wave is coming at the exponential rate. I don't think humans think in an exponential term. We think in a linear term because everything in our world is linear. But technology is not linear. Technology is exponential. So it'll change very fast. So if for whoever is not in this field, I think it's a great way to learn. And if they want to reach out, they can find me on LinkedIn. If they're interested in investing, obviously we're probably one of the biggest VC fund for individual investors. So if they're looking for invest into AI, so it could be interesting for them.
Cool. Thank you for your help today.
Anytime.